Hey everyone, Chris Wakefield, our marketing manager for the Saturday Evening Post,
I'm Nicholas Gilmore. I'm a staff writer at the Post.
and we are here with your week in review. We want to talk to you about some of the things that have caught our interest and some of the stuff we posted online over at SaturdayEveningPost.com. Nick, first of all, the most important issue of the week. What's more important to you, Yanny or Laurel or the royal wedding?
I heard Yanny at first. That changed pretty quickly to Laurel, which I heard was the official word that was being said.
Did it change because you got older, like in that span of time?
I got about 3 hours older.
And so then you heard differently.
Yeah, which is, 3 years in today's world. But the royal wedding I didn't see any part of. I didn't wake up in time. I was sleeping in.
This was Saturday morning, right?
It was Saturday morning.
Saturday morning.
Did you watch the royal wedding?
No. I did wake up on time, but I did not watch it. I had no interest in watching it. But it was a big deal. It was a big event. They both looked good. Let's get on to some of the important news. And something we recently posted on SaturdayEveningPost.com. Robert Indiana, his death. This guy was fascinating. Had a very interesting story and history behind him. What did you know about Robert Indiana?
Yeah, he was from Indiana. He was from Newcastle. So he took that pseudonym Indiana when he moved to New York to kind of pursue this art career. And he was most famous, of course, for the love statue.
Right.
That love imagery with the tilted O that you can see, in different cities all over the world. But the first one was here in Indianapolis at the IMA. He built it in New York. It was moved to Indianapolis, and it's still at the Indianapolis Museum of Art in the gardens there. But he had a lot of other interesting work before that, sort of abstracted highway signs, you could almost say, with a lot of layered letters and bold colors. And this work was shown at the Whitney Museum in New York, I believe in 2013. So kind of a late appreciation on that.
Right.
But,
so do you think his legacy goes beyond just the love sign?
Yeah, it does. And he had a lot of criticism from the art world for how that sort of was executed, the love art that kind of spread around the world.
Right.
But he had a lot of other artwork that was really interesting.
And there's a piece about more of his artwork over at SaturdayEveningPost.com. Also over at SaturdayEveningPost.com, 100 years ago this week, the Sedition Act. Jeff Nielsen did a piece about this. President Woodrow Wilson signs the Espionage Act and the Sedition Act. As we walk into the political climate today, what kind of similarities do you think you could draw off of that? If any at all. It
was pretty overarching as far as a government policy against anyone speaking out against the government. I found there was the word scurrilous was used in the original Sedition Act, which I had to look up. I don't know if anybody else is familiar with the word scurrilous, or uses it commonly, but it's pretty much what
I can start using it.
We can start using it. It's like the new Laurel. But scurrilous means it's basically language that just is subversive against the government. I mean, it was a very broad act that was, I think, repealed after 2 years.
1920, it gets repealed. And it was written to be really broad. It's kind of like the Patriot Act of 2001, 2002. It was meant to be this broad kind of definition so then government can go out and find the offenses. You had over 2,000 cases brought in those 2 years, mostly against journalists and media people. And again, as we walk into the political environment today, and with the way the current president approaches some things with journalism and media, it's just interesting to look back and see how things happened 100 years ago. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, and interesting that Jeff points out, too, is that the Saturday Evening Post was supportive
in
of
favor
the
of
Sedition
it.
Act. Because if they wouldn't be, then that would kind of be like, they would almost be like it's almost like they could be tried under the Sedition
Right,
Act
yeah, exactly,
for not being
yeah.
in favor of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think there are some, parallels to a lot of things we see from the current administration. But there isn't a Sedition Act today.
Right, there's not a Sedition Act today yet. Maybe, we don't know. Also, Jeff Nielsen has a really cool video, Inside the Archives, he does every single week, where he takes you inside the Saturday Evening Post archives, look at some artifacts and some really historical editions of the Saturday Evening Post. Also on SaturdayEveningPost.com, we pulled a piece from our latest May-June issue. We pulled a piece from the May-June issue about POW camps from World War II in America. What did you learn from that piece?
I thought it was really interesting. It mostly focuses on this camp in Salina, Utah.
Right.
Where they had these, German prisoners of war during World War II. And for the most part, I mean, based on the letters that these prisoners sent home and, accounts of the prisoners and the townspeople, it seemed like they were treated very well.
Very well.
Except for, this one case of violence that was pretty severe, and I guess you can read about it if you read the article. But no, it's an interesting sort of, annal of American history that you don't necessarily hear about very often. I wasn't very aware, but there were a lot of these POW camps.
Yeah, and we knew about the Japanese concentration camps, but not the POW camps. It's just really interesting to see that that's a part of history that we don't know about. And it helps that the Germans were treated so well, and they were writing home about how well they were treated, so it wasn't this scandal, so to say.
Well, and there's an interesting dichotomy, I think, between the treatment of the Germans in the POW camps and Japanese people in
Very different.
Basically concentration camps. That has a lot to do with, the culture and the German immigrants that we already had, and the similarities and race. But yeah, it's an interesting article and an interesting look back at something that I think a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of. And
again, that's in the May-June edition of the Saturday Evening Post, and you can also find it over at SaturdayEveningPost.com. One more thing I want to talk about before we move on, that you can find over at SaturdayEveningPost.com, a piece on why America loves diners, and I never thought that someone would think to write an in-depth piece on diners in America, but Richard Gutman did. It talks about the history of the diner, why they became popular, and some very interesting and unique and fun art to look at in that article. What's your favorite diner?
My favorite diner is my current hometown diner, which is Pepe's in Fountain Square. It's open 24 hours a day. They always know what I want. Tuna on rye, cottage cheese and chips, and keep the coffee coming. I love Pepe's.
It's great.
I can go there at 4 a.m. I can go there at, noon, and get what I need.
I had breakfast there last weekend. I love Pepe's also here in Indianapolis, Indiana. There was a diner, I believe in Danville, Indiana, right down the highway, that was just called Diner, or The Diner. It just said Diner. And it was one of the old style diners, and you walked in, there were like 4 things on the menu, and then Coke and Pepsi and whatever else. It was simple, it was easy. I think, especially in a town like Indianapolis where we are now, we need more diners. We need more what are called greasy spoons around here. Not fussy, not messy, not this big production. Just go in, get a bowl of chili, get a Coke, and walk out. $5.
It's a nice sense of place, of character.
It's a part of the American story, too.
It is, yeah, and I think that's kind of what this article is getting into.
Right.
About, that sense of character and place that you get from diners. And nostalgia.
Yeah.
They're nice. Yeah,
they're very nice.
Like them.
All right, now for a segment we're going to call Don't At Me. These are stories and interesting things that we find around the internet that kind of pique our interest or get us mad if you're me. Get our blood going a little bit, but don't at me about it. This is my take. Don't at me. Nick, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so, recently the Cannes Film Festival has been going on in South France, and there was a new film from Lars von Trier. It's kind of a controversial director, has been in the past. But he put out this new film called The House That Jack Built, and it had, I think, around 100 walkouts.
Wow.
At its first formal screening. I've seen the trailer, and it looks like a lot of violence. It looks like a pretty disturbing film, but I'm going with the position that I want to see it.
You do want to see it?
I want to see that film. I've seen all of his other films, and they're always interesting and provocative, and
do you think he made the film knowing people would walk out and that would create buzz, or is this is my art, take it or leave it?
I mean, I can't say. It's hard to take a position on a movie you haven't seen, but I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say
it's the internet.
I'm going to say that it's probably good.
Okay.
And I think it looks interesting. It's got Matt Dillon, Uma Thurman.
Really?
The trailer tells you pretty much everything you need to know about how provocative and disturbing it probably is. But don't at me.
All right.
If you've seen it. No spoilers.
I want to talk about Sharon Wayne from the Tampa Bay Times.
That's a call out.
Sharon, I'm calling you out. I'm name dropping. I'm calling you out. Sharon Wayne at the Tampa Bay Times wrote a piece blaming millennials for introducing alcohol into the Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World. For the longest time, you couldn't have alcohol at the Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World. You could have it at Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom, whatnot. Okay, but not at Magic Kingdom. 5 or 6 years ago, they opened up a new land, and you could have alcohol in a restaurant in this land. Sharon makes, and now Disney is saying at Magic Kingdom, alcohol at every sit-down restaurant in the Magic Kingdom.
So is this like taking a flask on the Dumbo ride? Or
no, this is, you can go to a restaurant and you can get a beer, you can get a wine, maybe a cocktail. You're not walking down Main Street arm in arm with Mickey Mouse with a paper bag and a Colt 45 in your arm. It's a much more, and her argument is Walt didn't want this. Walt wouldn't have wanted this. First of all, Sharon, Walt died 50 years ago. We had no clue what he would want in 2018. Second of all, you can't blame millennials, again, millennial blaming, for introducing this.
There's a lot of that.
I can guarantee you, not many millennials can afford the booze. I'm a millennial. I go to Walt Disney World. I can't afford the booze. I don't buy the booze there. And if you go to these sit-down restaurants and you look at the people consuming the beer and wine, it ain't going to be millennials. It's going to be our parents and grandparents. Why do we continually, when what we think America should be is changing, why do we continually blame millennials? Don't at me. Don't. But stop it. Stop with the millennials. We are responsible for some stuff. Yes, we killed Applebee's. Yeah. But other than that, why do we keep taking the blame for this
Applebee's
stuff?
isn't a diner.
It's far from a diner. It's far from a diner. Sharon Wayne, or Wine, don't at me. Stop with the millennials. All right, once again, you can subscribe to the Saturday Evening Post. This is our May-June issue. You can go to SaturdayEveningPost.com/subscribe. You can get a 1-year subscription for $15. That is a 58% off special we're running right now. 1-year subscription for $15. SaturdayEveningPost.com/subscribe. Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll see you next week with your Week in Review.